Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We're out for another adventure in Yorkshire with as many of the Panda owners from across the UK as we could gather. With our sights set on the high density of green lanes in the area, we had a full weekend to try and fit as much of it in as we could. If you're a fan of the Fiat Pandas doing off-roady things, then stick around, it's all coming up.
Less than 100 yards into the lane, we're already stuck.
Hello everyone and welcome to another adventure in the Yorkshire Dales. We're out for another long weekend of green lanes and enjoying some fun and games with the pandas. This is the second day of the meet. We've just got a few bits of footage of last night's activities. We had a couple of breakdowns, but we certainly had a lot of fun. We went out at night, went over to Scarhouse Reservoir, did Middlesmore Green Lane, all in the dark. It was fantastic fun. A couple of little breakdowns. John managed to bend the support bearing guard, the centre support bearing guard of the prop shaft into the bottom of the car. This was promptly fixed by Steve on a piece of dry stone wall, which was excellent work. We went on over the tops, plenty of good action there, and then lo and behold, Freddie managed to do the same thing again with the cross and bent the central support guard into the bottom of the car. This was promptly fixed once again and we carried on.
Now is not the place for regret.
As the darkness closed in and the midges came out, we made our way across the dam before starting the ascent up the Middlesmore climb. This is a nice little tricky hill during the daytime when all is well and good, but at night time with the old Panda's one candle power headlights it can get a bit dicey. Not to worry though, because we were all lucky enough to have Steve behind us in our rearview mirrors with his 5,000 light bars to keep us on the right track. The sun was shining and the flags were cracking at the start of day 2, an unusual turn of events for the weather in England. The traffic on the night of the Friday had slowed everybody else down, but it was okay because we met up with them on the Saturday morning. The embarrassment had assembled this time at the Massam Sports Association. We couldn't use the wreck because it was still underwater after the previous 3 weeks of rain. With a great buzz and a hive of excitement amongst the group, it was the last shop and toilet stop before we got ready to head out for our day in the Yorkshire Dales.
Level 16 testing.
Tempo receiving.
Without further ado, we were on the road and pointing the Pandas towards Fremington Edge. No doubt that by now you are aware that Fremington Edge is one of our favourite tracks in the Yorkshire Dales. Situated just above Reeth at High Fremington, it features a long steep climb up the side of the hill. Perfect for a handful of off-road enthusiasts in Fiat Pandas.
Get through the gate and stay in your cars and I'll come and see you.
I went up the climb first, dumping Chris out on the way on gate and filming duties. The cars went up the first part of the climb individually, with plenty of room in between in order to help any other people using the lane at the time. Barbara and Vern followed me up on their first ever attempt at this climb. Looking through the camera certainly doesn't give you the best view of just how steep this hillside is. Steve was up next, making full use of the Panda's optional downforce deployment tool. As per the usual, John was on the scene to show us just how successful the Mark IIIs can be in standard form when driven properly across terrain like this. Uncle Dave was next one through the gates in the tiny little pickup truck, the Stay-a-Puck Hafflinger. We absolutely love having this little beast of a machine come along to our meets. Weighing in at just under 640 kilograms and with a 643cc horizontally opposed flat twin rear-mounted air-cooled engine, the Hafflinger can carry a load of just over half a ton. With portal axles, low range and diff lock, it can go absolutely anywhere. Next ones at the bottom of the climb were Freddie and Fiona in the Mark III Diesel Cross. As they were winding their way through the picturesque bit, the first group had begun their attempt at the steeper and more difficult second part of the trail. This top section of Fremington Edge is much more difficult for the Pandas. It can be a lot more interesting trying to get those little 13-inch wheels through the larger rocks in the wash at the bottom and onto the off-camber trench halfway up. The hillside also maintains its steep gradient all the way to the top. Uncle Dave was living the low-range dream, just taking it easy and conquering it like it was nothing. John, in the standard Mark III, along with a number of others, had opted to take this relief route, which traverses around the more trenched out section. This area does have a lot of rocks and is still steep, but it's much more favourable if you don't have lifted suspension. Meanwhile, back at the bottom, it was David and his son Thomas beginning their climb in one of the oldest Panda 4x4s in the country. And from the oldest to most definitely the highest, next up it was Adam in the self-built green machine. And last one onto the hillside was Si in the Mark III crew cab, nicely leaving Chris behind for a long walk up after closing the gate.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew.
Steady away for Steve and Freddie, just taking in the scenery. As for Adam, it was time to find out just how cross-axled you can get when taking on the trench. Obviously the bestest F1 driver's excuse came out.
That foul underneath my foot when you stole it?
Yeah.
What do we reckon? First time, second time then, Adam? And that is a proper job. David was up next, always keen to show us the skills of the Mark I in a standard form. The only casualty here was the Magmount CB aerial. Then, to our amazement, Si turned up on the horizon. He had managed to get the Mark III through the wash, across the big rocks, and was heading up towards the trench. It's a credit to the vehicle and driver's ability that this car with very few suspension or power mods managed to get this far up the lane. And with a bit of guidance from us, he would eventually make it to the top.
got you in.
Everything was going just great. Until it wasn't.
That's no good, is it? You'd have to just take the boot
off and try and catch it.
Coming out of the end of the lane, and for some reason, Vernon's drive shaft on the near side of the Panda had completely locked solid, which meant that he couldn't go any further. Luckily, we were all here to embrace the breakdown, plus it wasn't a bad spot for lunch.
What's the problem, gents?
It's just ruined, isn't it? we think the
It's sunny. It's not raining, so it's a lot easier than it should be.
We think the tripod joint's falling off the end of the drive shaft.
The tripod, or tulip bearing, sits at the end of each one of the front drive shafts and engages with the final drive on the front differential. During articulation of the front end of the car, this moves in and out of the final drive in order to keep power to the wheels while travelling. We found that this can become a common problem on these old Pandas. When a car has too much suspension lift on the front, it can pull the tripod bearing out of the gearbox under full articulation. Vernon had taken every precaution that he could against this, including fitting custom bottom suspension arms in order to keep that drive shaft in the final drive. However, the lane that we've just been on previously is very steep, and the articulation was just too much while under power, pulling the drive shaft out.
How's my lunchbox, guys?
Oh, I mean, it's now an oil container. It's not a lunchbox anymore, is it? If we have your lunch next week, like, it tastes of gear oil.
Still be options, isn't there?
Jacob making the tool for the job.
Made a lot of funnels like that before.
Yeah.
With a bit of luck though, we had all of the Panda gurus with us on this trip. Scarborough Motorworks of North Yorkshire, Harris Classic of Staffordshire, Limited Editions Unlimited of Hampshire, and Steve. So it wasn't long before all the bits were going back on and the old oil was going back in.
That's
for the proper stuff, isn't it, Vern?
Oh, yeah.
2050.
Yeah.
Spent some money there, pal.
I know. If I tilt it, I got 2 litres.
But all this effort was to no immediate avail. Something with the car just wasn't right. We made the decision that Vernon needed to get the car back to Massam so we could go through it properly. For the rest of the gang, it was carry on with the green lanes. back at the ranch, and Vernon had successfully managed to nurse his car the 20 miles home. The crew were on with the repairs, whilst I was making cups of tea.
So then, we've had a breakdown, quite a fairly major breakdown. Vernon's drive shaft seems to be exiting the gearbox, which is not good, it's never good. But while they are fixing the drive shaft so Vernon can drive back down to the South Downs tomorrow, the rest of us have carried on to do some lanes for the rest of the day.
There's literally no drive. That's the clutch.
Well, yeah, that clutch is a bit wet.
Yeah, I think it's just a wet clutch. But I've never had that with a clutch that's good before. Oh, it's cold.
You're taking your shoes off.
Oh, that's actually quite refreshing. It's gonna mess up. Might as well photograph it.
Didn't you have to tow somebody out of here
Yeah.
in 2017?
This is definitely a repeat.
2018, was it?
As I said, I think it was Lewis, wasn't it?
And again. As the rest of the team were out enjoying the countryside, we had stripped Vernon's car down and headed to a friend's workshop where we were pillaging scrap metal to make washers. Installing these on the hub side of the drive shaft would push the shaft further into the gearbox, keeping the tripod bearing in place. It worked a treat. The car went back together and we were onwards to day 2. Leaving Massam at 9 o'clock sharp. It was ridiculously early even for one of our meets. With the idea of making back lost time from the previous day, we headed straight for Semawater. Of course, we managed to get a cheeky little trip down the Panda lane on the way there. Driving this lane in the height of summer can make it even tighter than it is normally. With the sun beaming down on us at 10 o'clock in the morning, you wouldn't want to be anywhere else other than Yorkshire, exploring the Dales in a Panda 4x4. First stop around Semawater was Stalling Busk. This little lane's a lot different now than what it used to be. The incline down the side of the hill was almost impassable, with huge boulders and large washed out areas. But there's still plenty of enjoyment to be had paddling in the river at the bottom. Adam then decided that there shouldn't be any water left in the river. At least Steve and I got a decent wash out of it. What do you need me to do?
I don't know, have we got anything in front with a rope?
Have you got a rope?
Anyone got a rope?
Been so successful all weekend.
It didn't feel like water either. It felt like fuel.
The Mark 1 gurus towing each other.
Nothing to see here, it's an electrical fault. Wait, how are we turning?
Before you even got
That's running now. Yeah, happy days. After a short drive round the bottom of the valley to conclude the lane, we headed back up to Semawater for a quick break and to take in the views. We concluded Cam Road West and headed for the last lane on the list. It was High Lane, West Burton, and a nice climb through the woods. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was a wonderful weekend in the Yorkshire Dales with the Panda 4x4s. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, you can get involved on our Facebook group, UK Panda 4x4. You can keep up with our other activities on Instagram, and of course leave a comment on YouTube. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.